Okay. So I've recorded this video like 3 times. My computer, it's a new computer, so I have no idea how it works. It's got that Windows like super new 8 thing. So I don't even know I'm looking at the camera. So I'm gonna attempt to do this on my phone. It looks weird because I don't even know where the camera's on this phone is at. I think it's right there. But I did it like twice already on my computer, and it wasn't. It said it was recording, but as soon as I stopped it, it said something happened that we didn't record this or whatever. So here we go again. Third one's a charm, huh? That's what they always say. So Caleb's question was about the senses. Should we believe our senses? And do senses play a role in acquiring knowledge? My answer to that, Caleb, is that we cannot truly believe our senses. We can I believe it's a process. I believe we start with the senses, and it goes up to our mind, and that's when our mind decides, like, this is really this. I don't know if I should believe this, and that's when we start our critical thinking process. And that's how if we want to find an answer, we start with the senses, and then we question ourselves and we look for an answer. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people just say, okay, whatever, or they just don't bother. They'll wait for someone else to figure it out. But ever since I started this class, I've been I've been thinking about everything, questioning everything. Like it's pretty funny though. I have some crazy arguments with my friends and stuff, and like an example why we can't really take our senses and just believe everything is magicians. Magicians are really good at of doing illusions, and we believe them. Well, I don't believe them, but a lot of people believe it because they got deceived. One example is when the guy puts a girl in a box, and then he cuts her halfway, and then he splits them, and she responds by moving her fingers or stuff like that, and then he asks her to move the toes, and she moves the toes, and everybody's at awe. How did he do it? And then he glues them back together, and the girl's fine. If that was true, that would be awesome, because he would be one hell of a surgeon if he just cut on and then put them back together and things would work. That would be amazing. But we all know that is not true. But we believe our senses. Like back in the day, we would believe that he's an amazing surgeon, or he just does magic, and the power of I don't know who, he puts them back together. So that's one of the reasons why we cannot just trust our senses. But I do believe the senses play a big role in our critical thinking process, because we got to start from somewhere. And I don't think just a random idea pops into your head. I think you have to witness it. So some way, some form, you have to have witnesses through experience, and then that's when the question arises, and that's when you start your critical thinking process. You might not have seen it right then and there. Then you ask that question. You might have seen it or heard it, and then days, weeks, years, who knows, have gone by, and then you all of a sudden come up with a question, and then you try to go find knowledge to that. Is it true? Can I say this is true with what I've seen? But or heard or touched or smelled. But I believe it's a whole process, but you got to start with your senses, and then move on and start asking the important questions, the questions that need an answer to. I was just watching TV earlier, and they just happened to be talking about the brain, and I think it was called BrainWorks, and they tested your brain on a lot of things, and then it happened to go to the perception part, and they had like an image, two images. The top part was gray and the bottom one was gray, and they asked you if it's the same gray. Well, just by looking at it, the top portion, say this is top portion, this is bottom portion. The top portion was a whole lot lighter than the bottom portion, and the only reason why was because it was at an angle, like sort of like this angle. So the middle part right here, it was lighter, so it made the bottom part darker. But it was actually the same gray. But just by looking at it, it looks like two different grays. So then the guy would just take a piece of the bottom gray and put it on the top gray, and it was the same color. It was actually, I was tripping out because I thought it was two different grays, but it was the same gray. And then they put two objects like this, and right here they look the same size. But if you start moving one further, like the top one right now, it looks a whole lot bigger than this little guy. So if we just use our senses and just believe this is true, you would believe that my top finger is a whole lot bigger than this finger, but they're exactly the same size. So I thought that was very interesting, and it just happened to be playing right before I saw your video. And that's where my logic comes, that we cannot just believe our senses, but it is a process, and I believe it starts with the senses. Our mind is not passive, so whatever we see, I think our mind actually questions it by itself, and it's up to us to like really try to find out the truth to it or not. But and I guess that's where we decide whether we're flowing with the river, or we're floating with the river, or flowing. And like we talked about earlier, floating would be you go with whatever everybody says and believe whatever it says, and you go with the flow. You don't ask questions. You're very passive. Believe the term is passive when you believe everything. But I'm more of a flowing. I got confused. What did I say earlier? Floating is when you just go with the flow. Flowing it's more like me. I question everything. I try to figure out, why am I doing things? Is this right? Is this wrong? Should I be doing this? Is there benefit for me? Or who benefits from this? So I guess you once you see something and then you realize, I don't know if it's true or not, you should question it and try to figure out an answer and see if there's knowledge to that. See if you can prove it through the I forgot the term. The truths. The I believe there's 4 of them, 4 or 5 of the truth things. But it can be true in one theories of truth. I think that's what it's called. It can be true in one theory, but not true in the other theory. So you gotta make sure it falls under them. And I really do not know why this computer is not working how I want it to, but I did it on my phone, so now I gotta figure out how to upload it from my phone to YouTube. That's gonna be pretty interesting. But Caleb, I don't know whether if I should ask you a question, since you already did your 4 videos. But I'm gonna go watch Saul's response, see what he has to say about this, and answer his question. And I might just ask you something later on, like in class or something.